What's going on, Agent Boy? Beyond the 90. So, in this video, you've probably seen by the title, I did manage to watch the game. However, I've got some thoughts. I've watched, again, countless other YouTube videos. I've watched the highlights. I've listened to various podcasts talking about this. And instead of going over the game, and I think I might touch on it with because then there's some important points, I want to look at what do we do next as Leicester City fans? How can Steve Cooper learn from this? So I've got some notes and I've got some things that I want to mention, and I'm going to try and give it a different spin to what other people have done. First of all, again, as usual, like, subscribe, all that good stuff. I'm going to get into it. So, from the Crystal Palace game, we obviously went 2-0 up and we lost the game. First half is the first time we started strong, which is a good start, and we're starting to build time on time. Steve Cooper's tactics did lose us the game. I'd like to see what I'm going to try and show you what we can do, because some of the things he did I disagreed with. Some of the things I understand his rhetoric and how he played, and some of the things, again, it didn't work. Bearing in mind, again, this is all with a pinch of salt because I haven't watched the full game, full 90 minutes, but I've got a good understanding of how we play, etc., etc. So, in the first half, I'm not going to touch on it too much. Again, we seemed like we were quite in the game, quite, again, ball to ball, end to end. And there were certain reasons why, again, we were by 45 minutes or 47 minutes or so, we were 2-0 up. Great to see us start again quick as well. Now coming into this, I'll get this. So the first thing I'm going to mention is the substitutions, because they're, for me, once there was one, and so this is the first of all, this is how we set up. I don't think there was too much of a surprise. Andre Ayew, Wilfred Ndidi, I'm not going to touch on because, again, other channels have touched on how good he was. And again, I agree with what they're saying and take their word for it. Mavididi, Skip Winks, and the 4-2-3-1, Jamie Vardy up front. One thing I was going to say in particular, Wilfred Ndidi was on a yellow card. So I don't know when he got the yellow card, but he was substituted at 50 minutes, which is that cam position. Now, instead of this, the substitution that was actually made is that Hamza Chowdhury came on in his position. So Chowdhury was substituted. Now, at this point, if we look at the team and we look at the way we were playing, etc., and we look at the average possession, this kind of lines up with the statistics. And at Wilfred Ndidi, people thinking, why is he going to take him off? So a lot of people at the beginning, and I was one of them, saying, what's Wilf doing in the 10 position? Are we okay? And he had a blinding game, let's be honest. But coming into this, look at the position in terms of the halftime here. We score, they get a little bit of possession, and then after this period of time, then we start to then around this period where we score just then. Look at this. Look at the possession and what happened. Wilfred Ndidi comes out of the team, and they get a run of possession. They start getting belief in the team, and again they score immediately afterwards. Let me see if they score before or after. So Wilfred Ndidi came off in the 52nd minute. They scored in the 47th minute. So they've scored, and immediately we're 2-1 down. We're chasing the game. Now, my understanding for why he did that, or Steve Cooper did that, is because Wilfred Ndidi is on a yellow card, and we're better off substituting a player, which I agree with. We're 2-1 up at the game at that period of time. And this is where I think he got his tactics wrong. He brought on Chowdhury. Now, there are other options on that bench. Let me just get the lineups now. In terms of players we could have played in that position, Wilfred Ndidi was doing really well in the number 10. Yes, he was tracking back and playing alongside, but did really well, getting 2 assists at that period of time. We look at some of the players that could have played in that position. Can I zoom in that one a little bit more? So, Buonanotte, obviously, we've seen what he can do so far. Didn't get any minutes. One thing that I think, from my thinking, is that Buonanotte was coming back from international duty, and also he picked up a little bit of a nick. So for that one, I understand why he didn't play him. El Khanous has just come back. Bearing in mind, he's been away. He's just signed. Our latest signing, I'm pretty sure. And obviously, he's been away with Morocco, has not had time to really bed into the squad and understand the Steve Cooper tactics, which for me is understandable. However, in this position, you want somebody to come in, and them two aren't available. They will be available going forward just because of international duty. Okay, let's take that. Chowdhury isn't that player, that number 10 that we need. And for me, it was a little bit disappointing, because if you're going to play in a position or going to play in a team, you're going to want to have the opportunity to nick the ball and drive forward. Wilfred Ndidi did that in the game. Did we have another player that was going to do that in the squad? Some of you might be thinking, well, no. The only other player that I can think that could have done that, in my opinion, Decold over Reed, I think would have been a better option, to be honest with you. Samore, I don't think is the right option there. You could have put Decold over Reed on the left and pushed Mavididi into the 10 as another option. But this is the one that I think could work. I think Ricardo Pereira was a real miss in this game. And the fact that we didn't utilize him, we didn't even bring him as a sub, I think is a real miss, specifically in the scenario. Now, in that midfield, I've talked about before, when we played a midfield 3 and you're bringing in, you take off Wilfred and Diddy, you bring in a player like Ricardo Pereira. First of all, he's got a good relationship with Winks. He could play as a double pivot just last season. And second of all, he's really good in tight spaces. And I think it's something that we didn't see as much. I would like to see him in the number 10. It's a bit of a different option, but I think he's got the ability to get the ball, win the ball back from a great position, not just play a simple ball, but bring in other players, or to give the ball back, create the space, break the pressure. And this puts Crystal Palace on the back foot. And I think we didn't do that enough. I think that's something that we've got to learn, that the first substitution again. So I would, if you're going to take Wilfred and Diddy off because of the yellow card, sure. In future matches, El Canus will be available and Buonanotte will be available. And they would do that as long as they're playing, I think, in my opinion, but you know, I'm not going to slander either one of them. I said both of them will be good at doing that. Both are young players, and that's the position that they want to play. Win the ball, low back, and then see if you can bring other players into play. Wide players and forward players. The substitutions did cost Leicester the game. I'm not going to talk about VAR. I understand where people are coming from, and it is a frustration, and I'm totally with people. However, that's not the reason why we lost the game, in my opinion. The next substitution we made is Mavididi for Fatawu. So with that, we kind of changed like for like. So in this change, if we go back to this formation, we've then got Wilfred and Diddy. That's been changed for now Chowdhury. So Chowdhury's come into the number 10, but let's be honest, he's probably playing like this. I didn't watch the exact formation he's playing, but he's coming alongside. Mavididi then changed for Fatawu, which for me make very little sense. Fatawu on the left, you're not getting the most out of him. You need to play him on that right-hand side. So for me, I would have flipped the two. Fatawu play on the left. Ayew played on that right-hand side. I believe that's correct. Let me go back to the average formations, etc. Again, it's one disadvantage of looking at that. I would have, because again, it looked like he was tired from that one, number 7. He was playing, actually, it looks like, for example, from here, from the average stats of formation, he was playing down the middle on this right-hand side. Chowdhury was playing to the left, and it looks like he was playing more on this side. Again, more on that right-hand, kind of more on the right-hand side. But it looked like at that point that it was Fatawu in general. He just doesn't work on the left. Mavididi does give you a lot, and the fact that we've got these rotation players that we can rotate throughout. And for me, the weird one was changing the flow. And this is something that I'm conflicted on. And maybe it's because I've seen Brendan Rodgers do it. And it's the final substitution for Conor Coady to give away the penalty, which is Andre Ayew. I always say Andre Ayew, first of all. I'm just going to call him Ayew for Coady, which was the last substitution. Now, when this substitution was made, we've seen this work before well under Brendan Rodgers the first couple of years, because he used to do this. He used to bring Wes Morgan on specifically. Wes gets himself up, right, head it, kick it, get it out of the box. And I think that was the role of Conor Coady. He's made a blinding error. But I think part of that is that, would I say it's, let me know your thoughts in the comments. Is this an old tactic to see out the game? And is it effective in the modern game? Now, I'm taking this one example. I'm not saying that this is definitely the case, but this is an older tactic that they used to do. It's not used as much in the modern game, I'll be honest. The back three, people say in general, keep the same back line the same because they're used to playing with each other. When you introduce somebody in that and you take another attacking player, you're inviting even more pressure. And Conor Cody has got plenty of experience, but again, he gave away the penalty, which I'm not going to blame him too much for. It was his fault. I'm just going to say that. It was his fault. He was at fault for it. He is part of the reason why we didn't get a goal, where we got a draw rather than a win because of the penalty. But is it his fault that he's coming in and disrupting the back line? People will like to point fingers, go, it's all his fault. He's done the problem. He's lost us the game. He's lost the game. He's lost us 2 points. But I don't think it's as simple as that. If I show you the exact formation, obviously we invited pressure. If I go back to that example and we look at that, after that, it was just wave after wave after wave of defending. And there's no, if you look after their goal, they got momentum and they started. Would it have been better if we started to play in a way that even if we're attacking and we're soaking up pressure, we've got the ability to counter and play on the counter? Now, a couple of other things that kind of worked a little bit out of our favour. Number one, the striker, Jamie Vardy, played a full 90 minutes. Ideally, that wouldn't be the case. We would have brought on probably an Edouard. I know that, and the reason why he didn't play is because that's his previous club and he's on loan from them. So he's eligible to play. And also, Ayew, who would probably play as a striker, was gassed and he started the game. So you could say from Steve Cooper, there wasn't really that planning ahead in that sense. We need Jamie Vardy to come off 60 minutes in order to get the next person on, to keep that momentum there, to keep that pressing and keep that strike, which has, again, you look at the likes of the Aston Villa game, we looked really, really good. Especially in the second half, we really went for it. It's just gutting the fact that we only got a point from it. And Owen Palmer actually mentioned this on BBC on When You're Smiling. He interviewed Mavididi and he mentioned that Mavididi was absolutely disappointed. It's his first Premier League start. He's been wanting to play in this league for ages. He's performed well, didn't perform the best, but he was one of the best players on the pitch. He's got an assist, sorry, he's got a goal. We're 2-0 up and we've gone and drawn the game. And he's thinking, damn. And he's taken off for Fatau, which I don't mind. And Fatau, I thought, would be the player with the highest ceiling. And I believe he will be. But I'm really happy with how Mavididi has adapted to the Premier League, considering he's not played in there before. I know some of these players haven't as well. Now, when we're inviting pressure, let me go back to this one. We essentially set up like this. I put in Vardy up top. It's a 5-4-1, let's be honest. Winks, Chowdhury, Skip, and then you've got Jamie Vardy just hanging up top going, can anybody give me a long ball over the top and pray? That's not good enough, in my opinion. Do we need a manager that's going to come in and go, do you know what? We're going to change this up. We're not going to put this player in this position. So let's put it back to what it was. So this is the back four. Cody's come on for Ayew. So let's put this Ayew back in this position. And then we've got Chowdhury would have come over here. Winks and Mavididi. I'm losing a player, no? Yeah. So I've got another player in this position. And then you've got Ndidi. So this was the, let me see if we get this up now. So this is where we were before. We've got Ndidi in the 10. And then we've got Ayew, and then we've got Mavididi. Now, what I would have done, in my opinion, and things to learn for Steve Cooper, because obviously some players are available. Obviously, we would have preferred to have not Elise, Edouard available, so we could have changed him out again, given some position. I would have given that person, whether it's Bonanotte or whether giving it to El Khanous, giving them the opportunity. Let's say El Khanous, just because he's the player that is. They're both good in tight spaces, but he's here for the long term. We want to be able to develop players that are going to be here for the long term. There's no point in developing this player, giving him loads of time and sending him back to a club, even though that's what we're doing with our academy players, but I digress. The amount have gone on loan. So we've got El Khanous in that position. What's great about him? He can absorb pressure and push back into that position and help defend. He's played as an 8 before, so you can play these three together. And look, Ndidi's on a 10 on a yellow card, so you need to take him off. That's fine. Then you've got, so that's going to be my first substitution, similar before. Then Mavididi gets substitute for Tau, and I would again swap them over. So if I'm doing for Tau, I would have come on this side, then flipped him over to this side. Andre Ayew, we bought in for Cody. Now, if you're going to play, say, let's say worst comes to worst, you play for Tau on this side, You play Fatawa on this side. You've got Andre Ayew then on the other side. You've got here. I think if you're playing on the left, Reed could have been a better option as well. More defensive. If we're 2-0 up in the game, we're 2-1. I think Reed can do this. I think what his benefit is, he's formed a really good relationship with Christensen, where he will go back and defend, and that's his role in the team. If you take him out of Didi off, cool. Fatawa, I understand why he doesn't come on for this specific game. Now, Ayew, this is where Ayew can come in. So Fatawa can come in to this side. But I've got a better option. And I think it's something we should utilize more. One of the most technical, tactical players we've got in this position, which is Ricardo. I think this is a trick that Steve Cooper is missing. So you've got obviously your back four here. You've got back four in Coley, Fast, Justin, and Christensen, which I think makes sense. Then you've got your 4-2-3-1, because bearing in mind, you're sticking to a similar principle of that 4-2-3-1 that you're going to play, because bearing in mind, this is still malleable. Winks will come in here. El Canoes will come to the right-hand side. So you've got your three. But what that means is when we win the ball, we then have a player that we can then pass it over to. Reed on one side, Ricardo on the other, and Vardy up front waiting for the ball. El Canoes can then drift into this position. Or he can do what Ndidi did. Press further up, win the ball. And the brilliant thing about Ndidi is he tackles from behind. And he worked great in the game. But we haven't got another player in that 10 that can do the same thing. So with the likes of El Canoes or Buonanotte, they will win the ball back, but they can also get the ball, dribble, push the team forward more. And that gives Palace another thing to think about. If they're throwing the kitchen sink and the rest of the players at us, we've got to be ready for the counter. And this is a trick that I think we missed. We can't just absorb pressure. And we've done this before. We've seen other teams do this before. It doesn't work. You have to have an outlet. You can't just defend and defend, because you will end up losing the game. And yes, we didn't lose the game, but we got a draw out of it. It feels like a loss, let's be honest. I keep referring to it as a loss. But that's how I would do it. I'd stick to a similar formation that we were playing before, because it was working. We just need to change the personnel. So I would play El Canoes in that 10. I'd play Buonanotte just as much, but I believe just for the advantage that Buonanotte has Premier League more experience, but is only here on for a year. I think we play El Canoes, and it will be our long term. But I say I'm fine with Buonanotte doing exactly the same thing. I think they're both incredibly talented young players. I think Ricardo, the fact that he didn't come on, the fact that he can do so many different roles, he can come back. He can then also, bearing in mind, push into this position here. He can provide a good overlap. He can also provide as a winger. We've seen it before where Ricardo's played on the right and Castagne was here, has played as right back. He can cut in. He can then create something out of nothing. He's good in tight spaces. This is an area of the pitch that I think we really need to work on. And the fact that we decided to go and set up and very negative, putting in Cody instead of the position, it upset the balance of the team. And I think there's some things that I think we need to consider going forward. So again, there are improvements. We are making improvements now. We are starting to improve the team time and time again. But we still need to pick up points. The next game against Everton is vital. It's not a must-win, but we've said, we were unlucky. There's no boohoo me. Woe is me. The next few games after the Everton games, we must be picking up points. And not one, more than one. 2, 3, two. 1 or 3 points. I mean, look at these fixtures, because I think we were a little bit unlucky. The penalty was kind of unlucky. The offside was a bit unlucky as well. But we can't cry about it. We've got to get on with it. We've got to get on and do what we can do. And I think the team has a good mentality that they will do. Let me get this up. So if I go to fixtures here, look, Liverpool, again, Everton, that needs Everton, Leicester, Everton. This needs to be 3 points. And if we're going to try and stay up, we need to nail teams like this. Everton won't be easy. I might do a preview on this on Thursday. Everton won't be an easy team to come up against. But that's the case. Walsall, bit of a write-off game. Arsenal, we can't expect very much from that one, especially going to the Emirates. We've never really done well from that. I think it was the 1-0 Jamie Vardy the game that got away. And then these are the games in October that we need to be picking up points. Bournemouth, Southampton, Nottingham Forest, Ipswich. Yes, that one's in, but them games, this is the points. These need to be points. And can I be honest and say we need at least, apart from the Arsenal game, looking at those 4 games, I would be disappointed if we left anything less than 7 points. Maybe I'm being unfair. I think Southampton, we can definitely get 3 points off of. Bournemouth, we've seen last season we can take points off, and we've got a stronger squad than we did back then. Nottingham Forest, I'm expecting a draw or 3 points, and same with Everton. I think 7 points in this is a doable. After we've got again the Everton game. So yeah, so there's some of my thoughts and my ramblings. Again, it's something slightly different. I don't want to go and analyze because I think loads of other people have analyzed the Wolford and Diddy sub, and I want to give solutions rather than just go, why were they so terrible? And I understand why people say it. Don't get me wrong, but let me know what your thoughts in the comments down below. Like, subscribe. I've got a slightly different setup. You might not be able to tell, but if there's any issue with the sound, you probably, well, that's why it might sound slightly different. Like, subscribe, all that good stuff. And we'll see you on the next video. So goodbye.